Welcome. Tonight, you're going to step into the boots of a young American soldier stationed on the front lines during the Second World War. This isn't a tale of glory or grand speeches. It's the quiet, grounded story of a single day, told not with drama, but with calm reflection. A bedtime story of mud, memories, and the enduring rhythm of survival. This is meant to help you drift off, to slow your breath, still your mind, and fall asleep as if you were listening to a story by firelight, one moment at a time. If you enjoy this kind of immersive storytelling, where history meets rest, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know, and it lets me keep bringing you more peaceful journeys like this one. Now, take a breath, settle in, and let's begin the story. You've been awake for hours, though the sun hasn't yet broken over the ridge. The world is still a shade of deep blue, quiet in that strange way the land gets before something terrible happens, or something doesn't. You're lying in your foxhole, half buried in mud that never seems to dry. The soil here in Normandy clings to everything. Boots, fingers, even your thoughts. You shift slightly, trying to keep the small of your back from freezing, but it's a losing battle. Your overcoat is thick, olive drab, and heavy with last night's rain. Your blanket, wool and scratchy, is tucked tight around your legs, but it offers little defense against the cold that rises from the earth like a ghost. Your hands are wrapped around your M1 Garand, not in fear anymore, but out of habit. After weeks on the line, it becomes an extension of your body. You sleep with it, eat with it, crawl, march, run, and pray with it. 8 rounds per clip. Semi-automatic. Reliable. You know how to clean it blindfolded, and you've done so more than once in the dark of a ruined barn, or beside the splintered wreck of a tree, hands shaking not from cold but from what you saw that day. You listen now, not just with your ears, but with everything. You've learned to hear what silence really means. No birds today, no frogs in the ditch, just the whisper of wind through shattered hedgerows and the low, distant growl of artillery, always there, like thunder on the edge of a storm that never quite rolls in. Somewhere far off, American howitzers are thumping the German lines. Somewhere closer, you hear the rumble of tanks shifting their positions. Shermans, probably. It's comforting, in a way, to know they're out there. They feel like big brothers, slow, noisy, not very smart, but tough when they need to be. You lie still, trying not to think too hard. Thinking too hard can lead you places you shouldn't go. Not here, not now. You think instead about the rhythm of the war, about the strange way time works out here. A minute can last an hour when you're crawling under wire, but a whole afternoon can vanish while you wait for orders. Today could be another day of inching forward, or it could be the day you get hit. You don't know. No one knows. Not even the lieutenant, and he's the one with the map. Over to your left, you hear Thompson stirring. You know it's him by the way he coughs, a short, gravelly bark. He shifts in his foxhole and fumbles for a cigarette. The crinkle of the pack is loud in the stillness. You glance over. He's got his helmet pushed back on his head, the chin strap dangling. You've told him to keep it down before, but he's been out here long enough to stop caring. He lights the cigarette with his cupped hands, shielding the flame as best he can. You can smell the sulfur, sharp and bitter. Morning, he murmurs, smoke curling from his lips. You nod and whisper, careful with that light. He shrugs. If a sniper wants me, he'll find me. You don't argue. You used to, back when the new guys were fresh from boot and full of spit. But not now. Thompson's been here since Omaha Beach. He made it off the sand and through the hedgerows. That gives a man a kind of fatalism you don't question. The horizon is starting to blush with the first hints of light, just a smear of pale orange across the black silhouette of broken trees. You can see your breath now, a white ghost in front of your face. You stretch your fingers and check your gear, belt, ammo, canteen. The routine keeps you grounded. You adjust your helmet, listen again. Still quiet. You don't trust it. Somewhere behind you, Someone mutters about breakfast. You doubt it'll be much. Maybe powdered eggs if you're lucky. Most days it's a slab of Spam or a K-ration bar. Dense, dry, like chewing a piece of sawdust that vaguely remembers what meat tasted like. Still, you'll eat it, same as always. Your stomach doesn't care if it's appetizing. You let your thoughts drift to home for a moment. Indiana, a little farmhouse with a red door and a porch swing that creaks when the wind's up. Your mom used to leave the radio on during breakfast. Glenn Miller, if she could find the station. You'd sit with a cup of hot coffee, your boots clean, your shirt pressed. Your sister would braid her hair at the table and ask what your plans were for the weekend. You didn't know then how much you'd miss the ordinary. Here, breakfast doesn't come with music, just the clatter of mess tins and the muted shuffle of boots. You wonder if the Red Ball Express managed to bring up supplies. Trucks loaded with fuel, food, ammo. They're the veins that keep this army alive. If the roads are clear, maybe you'll get something warm. You reach into your breast pocket and pull out a letter. You've read it a dozen times, but it still feels fresh. Your sister's handwriting is neat, even when the ink smudges from the damp. She talks about ration lines and how she's helping the neighbors with their garden. She says she's proud of you. You try to believe it. You fold the paper carefully and slide it back near your heart. The chaplain passes by, offering a quiet word to each foxhole. He's a kind man, doesn't preach, just listens. Sometimes that's all a man needs. You give him a nod, and he pats your shoulder. Stay safe, he says softly. You wonder if anyone ever does. By now the sun is a hazy gold above the horizon. The clouds glow, bruised and heavy. The light creeps into the hollows, turning the mud to copper. You take a deep breath and let it out slow. Another day on the line. Another roll of the dice. Thompson flicks his cigarette butt into the mud. You think they'll hit us today? You think about it? Probably. He chuckles dryly. Yeah, me too. You both sit in silence a while longer, rifles resting across your laps, breath steaming in the cold morning air. Somewhere out there, the enemy is watching, waiting. Somewhere out there, they're having the same conversations. But here, in this foxhole, you're just a man trying to survive until nightfall. And so the day begins. You hear them before you see them, the crunch of boots over frozen grass, the low murmurs of voices, and the clipped bark of orders traveling down the line. Even without the lieutenant's voice reaching you clearly, you know what it means. Move out. Always those two words. No fanfare, no discussion. Just a direction and the weight of obedience pressing down on your shoulders. You shift in your foxhole, joints protesting, muscles sore from days of crouching, marching, carrying too much for too long. You stand slowly, careful to stay low. The air is sharp with cold, and the weight of your gear settles into your back again like an old friend with terrible manners. Your web belt pulls at your hips. Your canteen clinks gently against your entrenching tool. The Garand rests comfortably in your hands. Familiar, but heavy in the way that only a weapon designed for killing can be. The men around you are silent, like ghosts rising from the trenches of the Great War their fathers fought in. One by one, they fall into column, eyes sunken from lack of sleep. You find your place behind Thompson, who adjusts the strap on his helmet and mutters something about his boots. Mud has worn the soles nearly smooth. You remember when your boots were new, polished leather, stiff and proud. Now they're more patch than shoe, soaked through and beginning to crack. Everyone's are, but supply is always behind the front, and the front keeps moving. You begin walking, not with urgency, but with the slow, methodical pace of men who have marched this way too many times. The trail ahead snakes through a narrow path worn by other boots and other bodies, some who made it, some who didn't. The hedgerows on either side are taller than a man, thick with vines and thorns. They crisscross the countryside like green walls, hiding everything, the enemy, traps, and sometimes nothing at all. It's a strange kind of marching. You're not parading down a street in front of your hometown's band, and this isn't like the drills you did at Fort Benning. This is the kind of walking where every step might be your last. You scan the ground for signs, wire, disturbed soil, anything that might hint at a mine. They've been planted everywhere. You've seen the results. A toe, a knee, a cloud of red mist. You stop looking too closely after a while, because there's only so much horror your brain will hold before it goes quiet. The sergeant passes along a word. We're headed toward a ridge overlooking a crossroads. Might be a German machine gun nest up there. Might is always the word. Nothing is ever certain, not even the ground beneath your feet. You file the information away and keep moving. The air smells of wet leaves, old gunpowder, and the faint sour scent of burned-out buildings. You pass what's left of a farmhouse. Just a stone wall, a doorway leading to open sky, and the skeleton of a hay cart. A chicken clucks and runs into the underbrush. Somehow, it survived. You wonder about the family that lived there. Did they run? Did they make it? You'll never know. You come across a field that looks quiet, too quiet. Everyone slows, instinct kicking in. The lieutenant holds up a fist. Halt. You drop to a knee, scanning the tree line. No movement, no sound. You feel the beat of your own heart pounding in your ears. Somewhere out there, a German soldier could be sighting you in with his car 98K. You hold still. A bird flutters from a branch, and half the squad flinches. You don't laugh. You've seen too many men die for not flinching. After a few minutes, the order comes to move again. The path curves through a hollow where the trees grow close together. It's darker here, damp and quiet, with the sound of dripping water echoing between mossy trunks. You hear Thompson whisper, feels like a damn graveyard. You nod silently. You pass an old German helmet lying in the brush, turned upside down like a bowl. No body, just the helmet, speckled with rust and dried mud. You don't stop. You don't want to know what happened to the man who wore it. Further along the trail, you catch sight of the artillery boys back behind the hill. 105 mm howitzers, their barrels blackened from constant use. The crew waves as you pass, their faces lined with smoke and fatigue. They don't talk much either. They do their job from a distance, but they know the cost just the same. Without them, you'd be dead a dozen times over. You give a small wave back, no words needed. Your column halts again. The lieutenant moves up the line, bent low, whispering to each man. You see his map? Creased, smudged, barely holding together under the rain. He taps a spot with his pencil. German machine gun here, he says when he reaches. You! We're flanking left. Stay low. Watch for wire. You nod. No questions. Orders are orders. You drop into the ditch along the roadside, boots sinking into cold muck. You crawl, rifle slung over your back, face inches from the earth. You can smell it, wet soil, rotting vegetation, the metallic tang of old blood. You hear a click behind you and freeze. Not a mine, just someone's canteen hitting a rock, but your nerves are frayed to their ends. You keep moving. Eventually, you reach the flank. You kneel behind a broken stone wall, waiting. The ridge is just ahead, maybe 30 yards. Trees at the top, probably where the nest is dug in. You hear the lieutenant give the go signal, and your heart tightens. But this time, nothing. No shots. No enemy. Just empty sandbags and 2 rusting MG-42s mounted in position but long abandoned. The Germans pulled back sometime last night. You hold still anyway, watching, waiting. Thompson lets out a long breath. Another ghost post. You know not to celebrate. They'll set another one up tomorrow. The column regroups. You move forward again, passing through the position. Shell casings litter the ground. Bits of German rations, black bread, a cracked mess tin, cigarette butts in the dirt, and footprints that fade into the trees. Signs of life. Signs of retreat. You wonder how close you were to facing them here. 5 minutes? 10? You don't linger. The lieutenant wants the ridge held until further orders. The sergeant starts assigning sectors of fire, spacing the men out. You find a patch of earth, kneel behind a rock, and settle in. The march is over, for now, but the day isn't. You lean back, adjusting your helmet, eyes scanning the tree line. You know better than to relax. You just move from one danger to the next, 1 mile closer to Berlin. No welcome signs, no finish line, just forward. The ridge is quiet now. Not peaceful, just quiet. That kind of silence you only find in war, where danger has retreated just far enough to let your nerves loosen, but not far enough to ever let them go. You and your squad dig in, clearing debris, shifting rocks, reinforcing what the Germans left behind. There's already a shallow trench. You and Thompson widen it, your entrenching tools scraping against the soil with the slow, patient rhythm of men who have done this before. Dig, brace, breathe, glance over your shoulder. The sun is climbing now, burning through the morning mist, turning dew to steam. It's almost warm, but you don't take off your jacket. You never do. There's no telling when you'll need to throw yourself to the ground, or if the clouds will roll in and freeze the sweat right to your spine. So you work slowly, methodically, sleeves rolled just high enough to keep the cuffs dry, but not so high as to catch the eyes of a sniper. You know what they say about snipers. You hear the stories in whispers about the Germans with scopes who can hit a helmet slit at 300 yards. You don't know how true any of it is, but you keep your head down all the same. Every movement, every breath, feels like it might matter. The lieutenant checks in, crouching low, his map folded under his arm. He asks how deep the trench is, how many sandbags you've moved. You give a short answer. He doesn't need more. No small talk anymore. Not out here. He nods and moves on, checking in with the others, speaking low, like a man afraid his voice might draw fire. Thompson pauses and leans on his shovel, wiping sweat with a sleeve. "You ever think we'll stop doing this?" he asks. You know what he means, this endless cycle of digging in and moving out, of advancing just far enough to die a little slower. You shrug. "When it's over," he scoffs gently. "And when's that?" Neither of you says what you're both thinking. It'll be over when one side runs out of men. You settle into your spot behind a fallen tree trunk, now repurposed as cover. The sergeant barks out a rotation schedule. 4 on, 2 off. Your third watch. You'll be awake through the early afternoon while others eat or rest. You don't mind. Sleep doesn't come easy anymore, and food, well, it's not much worth waiting for. Still, a runner from the rear brings something up. Brown canvas sacks tied shut with twine. K rations. You open yours and find a tin of cheese spread, a packet of crackers, a few hard candies, and a crumbling fruit bar. No cigarettes this time. Supply lines have been hit again. You chew the crackers slowly, not for the taste, but because it gives your jaw something to do. Food's just another piece of gear, fuel, nothing more. Off to the side, Johnson from Baker Company is writing in a small notebook. You've seen him scribbling during lulls. Poetry, he says, mostly about home. You wonder how anyone finds words for this place. The war strips words away, leaves only noises and looks. You envy his ability to write it down. You haven't put pen to paper since July, and even then, all you could manage was, "I'm still alive. Don't worry." You tear open the candy packet and suck on a lemon drop. The sugar stings a cracked spot on your lip, but the tartness reminds you of summer back home. Lemonade in glass jars, the hum of bees, grass under bare feet. It feels like someone else's memory now, like something you read in a book once but can't quite place. From your position, you can see the road beyond the ridge. It winds through a narrow valley, flanked by trees and tall hedgerows, perfect for an ambush. That's probably why you're here. If the Germans counterattack, it'll be through that pass. They've done it before. You've seen it. Sudden shelling, trucks tearing around the corner, machine gun fire ripping the air open like fabric. But right now, it's just a road again, empty and waiting. You watch the clouds drift overhead. One of them looks like a ship, sails billowing. You remember watching ships in the harbor back in Boston during embarkation, massive vessels brimming with men and machines all headed east. You never imagined where they'd land. You didn't picture muddy trenches and ruined towns. You didn't picture yourself, hungry and tired, watching a dirt road from behind a log. A shot rings out. You jerk your head up, heart thudding, finger slipping to the trigger. But it's far off, maybe a mile or more. Probably a scout skirmish, maybe someone testing a line. You and Thompson both freeze, eyes scanning the tree line. No return fire, no shouting, just silence again. False alarm. Still, the adrenaline sits in your veins, hot and sour. Time passes differently now. The clock in your brain doesn't tick anymore. It thumps like a drum. You sit, shift, glance around, shift again. You clean your rifle for the 5th time, pull the bolt, inspect the action, run a cloth down the barrel. You do it not because it needs it, but because it keeps your hands moving. Still, hands are dangerous. They let the mind drift. Behind you, someone starts humming. A low, tuneless thing, barely music. It fades quickly. No one tells him to stop, but he does anyway. You finish your watch and tap Rodriguez on the shoulder. He gives you a nod and takes your place. You crawl back from the line and lie down under the partial shelter of a torn camouflage net strung between 2 stakes. You rest your helmet beside you, let your eyes close. You won't sleep, not really. But sometimes your body tricks itself into a kind of half-rest. Dreams blur into sounds, the rattle of cans, the clatter of metal, the distant drone of an aircraft engine overhead. When you open your eyes, it's early afternoon. Clouds have gathered again, and the warmth has faded. The air smells like rain. Thompson offers you half of a chocolate bar he bartered from the artillery boys. You take it gratefully, break it clean, and chew in silence. Neither of you says much anymore, but neither of you feels quite alone. The ridge still holds. The Germans haven't come. Not yet. The sun slips behind the ridge, casting the field below in long shadows. Afternoon has arrived, but time feels meaningless now. You've already been in this position for hours, but every second drags, stretched thin by anticipation. You're waiting, but for what? You don't know. Another order? A German push? A mistake? In the absence of action, it's not rest you feel. It's dread, waiting for a shape to step out of the trees or for the sky to light up with the first shell. The stillness is deceptive. It frays your nerves even more than gunfire does. At least when the bullets fly, you know where to aim. You know how to survive. But this quiet is unnatural. Birds should be singing. There should be wind in the trees. Instead, the world holds its breath, and so do you. You're crouched low behind the ridge crest, keeping your silhouette below the skyline. You learned that the hard way, first week on the front, when a green replacement stood too tall and caught one square in the helmet. No one talks about him anymore. Not because they didn't care, but because saying his name out loud makes the danger too real again. You were only a few feet away when it happened. You remember the sudden jerk of his body, the way he crumpled, as if he'd just been unstrung. You never saw his face afterward. You didn't want to. Now you keep low. Everyone does. The sky is beginning to darken slightly at the edges, clouds creeping in from the west. You check your ammo. 2 full clips on your belt, 1 in the rifle. You run your fingers along the cool brass, the ridged metal of the end block clip. 8 rounds. You've come to know them intimately. Not just how they fire, but how they feel, how they sound when they eject with that telltale ping. The enemy knows that sound too. Sometimes you hesitate to fire your last round, just to keep from giving away that your rifle's empty. You shift your position slightly, wincing as your knees crack. A few feet away, Rodriguez is watching the valley below through a pair of field glasses. He doesn't speak, just scans, slowly and methodically. You glance over and catch a flicker of something in his eyes, a thought, maybe even fear. But he says nothing. You don't ask. He'll tell you if he needs to. And if he doesn't, you both pretend everything is fine. You nibble on a biscuit from your ration pouch, dry, flavorless, more like dust held together by hope than anything else. It crumbles in your mouth and sticks to your teeth. You chew slowly, not because you're hungry, but because it gives you something to do. Hunger is like sleep now, a vague memory of something you used to feel before adrenaline and habit replaced it. In the hedgerow behind you, one of the medics, Carver, sits cross-legged, sorting bandages from a field pack. He has the look of someone trying to stay busy. You've seen him work before. Gentle hands, steady under pressure, a strange kind of calm in a world built on chaos. He saved Private Hale last week, wrapped him up after shrapnel tore through his thigh. You wonder if Hale made it all the way back to the rear lines. Probably not. The ambulances don't always get through. The Germans know how to hit roads just as well as men. A crack on the radio breaks the quiet. The lieutenant leans in to listen. Static. A burst of German chatter, then silence again. The radio operator shrugs, fiddles with the dials. Nothing else. The lieutenant turns away and lights a cigarette with trembling fingers. He offers the pack around. You take one. So does Thompson. The tobacco is dry, the taste bitter. It curls in your throat, but it steadies your hand. You think about home sometimes. Never long, never with too much detail. Just flashes. The smell of bread from the bakery down the street. Your kid brother tossing a ball in the yard. The sound of a screen door slamming. You keep the images vague on purpose. Too sharp, and they'll cut. From your spot, you can just make out a small farmhouse beyond the trees. Its roof is sagging, walls scorched. Maybe artillery found it, or maybe it was torched during the German retreat. Either way, it's just another ruin now. You can see something hanging in the window, curtains, maybe, or the edge of a coat. You wonder if anyone's inside, hiding. You hope not. Civilians caught in these zones don't last long. Suddenly, you hear a rustle up ahead. Every muscle locks. You grip your rifle tight, eyes searching the trees, heart thudding hard in your chest. It could be a squirrel, could be the wind, could be a German scout slipping through the underbrush. You signal to Thompson without a word. He nods, leans forward, rifle up. You wait, breath shallow. 30 seconds, nothing. A full minute. Still nothing. Finally, Rodriguez lowers the glasses. "Fox," he whispers. "Just a damn fox." Everyone exhales at once. You didn't even realize you'd stopped breathing. The tension doesn't break, though. It just resets, coils back up inside you, ready for the next scare. A little later, the sergeant comes around with a new word. Expect movement near dusk. Eyes open. No sleeping on post. Rotate and dig deeper if you can. He doesn't say what kind of movement. Could be German scouts. Could be artillery. Could be another false alarm. You nod and take the shovel again, digging the trench a few inches deeper, pushing the loose soil back behind you. It won't stop a mortar, but it might make the difference if bullets start flying. The clouds have thickened now, casting the ridge into premature twilight. You feel a drop of rain on your helmet. Then another. You look up. Gray skies. It'll be wet tonight. You sigh. Wet means cold. Cold means slower fingers, heavier boots, a tougher watch. And it means noise. Every step through mud louder. Every rifle click sharper. Rain reveals everything. Still, part of you is relieved. Rain might keep the Germans hunkered down too. It might mean one more night of just sitting and waiting, rather than running and firing and bleeding. As you dig, the world begins to smell like earth again. Damp, rich, full of something ancient. A strange comfort buried beneath the weight of your gear, the dread in your chest, the silence of the valley. For now the line holds. No shells, no screams, no orders. Just waiting. The sun slips behind the ridge, casting the field below in long shadows. Afternoon has arrived, but time feels meaningless now. You've already been in this position for hours, but every second drags, stretched thin by anticipation. You're waiting. But for what? You don't know. Another order? A German push? A mistake? In the absence of action, it's not rest you feel. It's dread, waiting for a shape to step out of the trees or for the sky to light up with the first shell. The stillness is deceptive. It frays your nerves even more than gunfire does. At least when the bullets fly, you know where to aim. You know how to survive. But this quiet is unnatural. Birds should be singing. There should be wind in the trees. Instead, the world holds its breath, and so do you. You're crouched low behind the ridge crest, keeping your silhouette below the skyline. You learned that the hard way, first week on the front, when a green replacement stood too tall and caught one square in the helmet. No one talks about him anymore, not because they didn't care, but because saying his name out loud makes the danger too real again. You were only a few feet away when it happened. You remember the sudden jerk of his body, the way he crumpled, as if he'd just been unstrung. You never saw his face afterward. You didn't want to. Now you keep low. Everyone does. The sky is beginning to darken slightly at the edges, clouds creeping in from the west. You check your ammo. 2 full clips on your belt, 1 in the rifle. You run your fingers along the cool brass, the ridged metal of the end block clip. 8 rounds. You've come to know them intimately. Not just how they fire, but how they feel, how they sound when they eject with that telltale ping. The enemy knows that sound too. Sometimes you hesitate to fire your last round just to keep from giving away that your rifle's empty. You shift your position slightly, wincing as your knees crack. A few feet away, Rodriguez is watching the valley below through a pair of field glasses. He doesn't speak, just scans, slowly and methodically. You glance over and catch a flicker of something in his eyes. A thought, maybe even fear. But he says nothing. You don't ask. He'll tell you if he needs to, and if he doesn't, you both pretend everything is fine. You nibble on a biscuit from your ration pouch, dry, flavorless, more like dust held together by hope than anything else. It crumbles in your mouth and sticks to your teeth. You chew slowly, not because you're hungry, but because it gives you something to do. Hunger is like sleep now. A vague memory of something you used to feel before adrenaline and habit replaced it. In the hedgerow behind you, one of the medics, Carver, sits cross-legged, sorting bandages from a field pack. He has the look of someone trying to stay busy. You've seen him work before. Gentle hands, steady under pressure, a strange kind of calm in a world built on chaos. He saved Private Hale last week, wrapped him up after shrapnel tore through his thigh. You wonder if Hale made it all the way back to the rear lines. Probably not. The ambulances don't always get through. The Germans know how to hit roads just as well as men. A crack on the radio breaks the quiet. The lieutenant leans in to listen. Static. A burst of German chatter, then silence again. The radio operator shrugs, fiddles with the dials, nothing else. The lieutenant turns away and lights a cigarette with trembling fingers. He offers the pack around. You take one. So does Thompson. The tobacco is dry, the taste bitter. It curls in your throat, but it steadies your hand. You think about home sometimes, never long, never with too much detail, just flashes. The smell of bread from the bakery down the street, your kid brother tossing a ball in the yard, the sound of a screen door slamming. You keep the images vague on purpose. Too sharp and they'll cut. From your spot, you can just make out a small farmhouse beyond the trees. Its roof is sagging, walls scorched. Maybe artillery found it, or maybe it was torched during the German retreat. Either way, it's just another ruin now. You can see something hanging in the window. Curtains, maybe, or the edge of a coat. You wonder if anyone's inside, hiding. You hope not. Civilians caught in these zones don't last long. Suddenly, you hear a rustle up ahead. Every muscle locks. You grip your rifle tight, eyes searching the trees, heart thudding hard in your chest. It could be a squirrel, could be the wind, could be a German scout slipping through the underbrush. You signal to Thompson without a word. He nods, leans forward, rifle up. You wait, breath shallow. 30 seconds. Nothing. A full minute. Still nothing. Finally, Rodriguez lowers the glasses. "Fox," he whispers. "Just a damn fox." Everyone exhales at once. You didn't even realize you'd stopped breathing. The tension doesn't break, though. It just resets, coils back up inside you, ready for the next scare. A little later, the sergeant comes around with a new word. Expect movement near dusk. Eyes open. No sleeping on post. Rotate and dig deeper if you can. He doesn't say what kind of movement. Could be German scouts. Could be artillery. Could be another false alarm. You nod and take the shovel again, digging the trench a few inches deeper, pushing the loose soil back behind you. It won't stop a mortar, but it might make the difference if bullets start flying. The clouds have thickened now, casting the ridge into premature twilight. You feel a drop of rain on your helmet. Then another. You look up. Gray skies. It'll be wet tonight. You sigh. Wet means cold. Cold means slower fingers, heavier boots, a tougher watch. And it means noise. Every step through mud louder, every rifle click sharper. Rain reveals everything. Still, part of you is relieved. Rain might keep the Germans hunkered down too. It might mean one more night of just sitting and waiting, rather than running and firing and bleeding. As you dig, the world begins to smell like earth again. Damp, rich, full of something ancient. A strange comfort, buried beneath the weight of your gear, the dread in your chest, the silence of the valley. For now, the line holds. No shells, no screams, no orders. Just waiting. You're on watch. It's sometime past midnight, though you can't see your watch under the wool sleeve of your jacket, and you don't really want to move your arm to check. You know what time it is by the way the cold settles in your bones. It's always coldest right before dawn, and this isn't dawn yet, not even close. You sit at the edge of the trench, eyes locked on the tree line, rifle laid across your lap, hands tucked under your arms for warmth but ready to move in a flash. You blink slowly, deliberately, keeping yourself alert. It's quiet, but not silent. The night breathes out here. Wind whispers through the tall grass. Somewhere, water drips from a broken gutter on an abandoned farmhouse. The occasional creak of boots or a rustle of fabric from one of the other foxholes reminds you that you're not alone, but it still feels like you are. You hear your own heartbeat. You feel every muscle, every twitch, every itch you won't scratch, because movement draws attention. Out there, just a few hundred yards beyond the darkened hedgerow, are men who would shoot you without hesitation, just as you would them. And right now, you're the line between them and your sleeping buddies. It's a strange burden. You never thought of yourself as a protector. But here, it's all about the man next to you, protecting each other, staying alive. You scan the fields, then the trees, then the horizon, then back again. You do it over and over until the pattern becomes part of your thoughts. And still, nothing. Except that, somehow, nothing is too quiet. The Germans are disciplined, efficient. They don't shoot just to shoot. But the total absence of noise can be a warning sign. You've seen it before a raid, before a shelling. Nature goes quiet too, like it knows what's coming. A cloud passes over the moon, smothering the faint light you had. Everything becomes shadows and outlines. You focus your ears. Every sound sharpens. A twig snapping 3 foxholes down sounds like a gunshot. You wait for more, but it was just Sergeant Halverson, shifting in his sleep. You exhale slowly. You think of home, but only briefly. You try to imagine your father, up at this hour, maybe making coffee before heading to the factory. You try to remember the smell of the kitchen, the way your mom used to hum as she washed dishes, the sound of the neighborhood dog barking a few houses down. But that world feels thin and far away, like something that happened to someone else, The only sounds you know now are boots in the mud, bolts sliding back, medics yelling for morphine, the scream of incoming artillery. You slap your cheeks lightly to stay alert. It's a trick you learned from the Brits. If you fall asleep on watch and they catch you, there's no yelling, just silence and a different job next time. Latrines, maybe, or worse, walking point. You don't ever want to be point man, first to walk into the unknown, first to draw fire. No thanks. Your boots are soaked through. You wiggle your toes inside them, trying to keep circulation going. Your feet are starting to go numb, but at least they don't hurt anymore. That's a bad sign, but you push it out of your mind. One problem at a time. You hear a whistle. Low, faint. One chirp. Then another, a few seconds later. That's the signal. Just the perimeter guys rotating posts. You echo the whistle back, the way you were taught. Quick and short. They whistle again, and you relax just a little. Friendly. You look over at the next foxhole. Thompson is asleep, curled up like a dog, helmet pulled down over his face, mouth slightly open. You envy him, though you know it's not real rest. No one sleeps soundly here. You dream in flashes, ambushes, firefights, screams. You've woken up more than once, swinging your fists at shadows. So has everyone else. You turn back to your watch, eyes adjusted now to the layers of dark. You can pick out shapes better than before. The tree line, the broken down fence to the right, the boulders that look like crouching men. You keep staring, though you know better than to trust your eyes. Too many times you've seen shadows shift only to realize it was wind in the brush. Then a sound. Faint. There it is again. A clink. Metal on metal. Not close, but not far either. East, near the low ridge. You hold your breath and lean forward slowly. You press your cheek to the cold dirt at the top of the trench wall, ears straining. Silence. Then another clink, followed by a scrape, like someone dragging something heavy. You tap your helmet 3 times fast. The guy in the next hole hears it. Your coded warning. Not panic. Not yet. Just listen up. You raise your rifle, not aiming yet, but braced, finger just outside the trigger guard. You scan. Your breath fogs in the air. You wipe it away from your sight. Still nothing. The sound doesn't come again. Could have been an animal. Could have been wind. Could have been a patrol dragging wire. You don't know. You hate not knowing. The night crawls on. You hear a soft step behind you, then feel a tap on your boot. Your relief. It's Carver. You nod and quietly move aside, letting him take your place. You whisper, something was out there. About an hour ago. Ridgeline. Might have been nothing. He nods. That's all. You climb down into your hole, legs stiff, back aching. Your body screams for rest, but your mind races. What if it was a German patrol? What if they're staging just out of sight, waiting for the order? You curl up on your pack, trying not to think about it. Rain patters against your helmet. You pull your poncho tighter. Eventually, exhaustion claims you. And if you dream, you won't remember it come morning. It's not morning yet, but it's no longer night either. That liminal hour, that vague gray bleed before the sun rises, creeps into your trench like a ghost. Everything is quieter than it should be. Not silent. There's always sound. But hushed in that uneasy way, like the world is holding its breath. And you, by reflex or instinct, start holding yours. You blink awake when a hand nudges your boot. It's the sergeant. Up, he whispers, moving at 0500. Pack light. Bring wire cutters. Wire cutters. That means barbed wire. That means someone thinks you'll need to get through German lines. That means a push. You grunt acknowledgement and sit up slowly, bones stiff and sore from cold and sleep. You pull your helmet on, sling your rifle, and check your ammo twice. Then your grenades. then the small pouch of field dressings at your belt. You reach for your canteen and sip. The water tastes metallic. Everything tastes metallic now. Around you, the line stirs. Quiet movement. No talking. Just the sound of gear being strapped down, boots scuffing in mud, zippers pulled in darkness. A few men kneel by the edge of the trench, lighting cigarettes with cupped hands. The glow is brief and sharp in the dark, like a firefly winking too long. You want one, but you don't take one. Not now. You want your hands steady. Overhead, the sky begins to shift. The black turns to navy, then to slate, and soon you can start to see the outlines of faces again. Carver pulls a knit cap over his ears. Thompson rubs his gloved hands together and mutters something under his breath. Probably a prayer. You can't hear the words, but you understand the cadence. You've said those same kinds of prayers. Not eloquent, not even particularly hopeful. Just bargaining. The lieutenant walks the trench line with a clipboard, checking names, whispering instructions. He pauses by you briefly. You're on the left side of the push. Second wave. If the first boys take fire, lay suppressing rounds toward that farmhouse. He points to a faint silhouette up ahead. If they don't take fire, you move when they do. Keep it tight. You nod. He moves on. You look out past the edge of the trench. The landscape beyond is still and alien. Fields of frostbitten grass, a few trees bent by wind, a line of old fencing that might mark a pasture, and just beyond it, fog, dense and low, clinging to the ground like smoke. It moves in ripples, not unlike surf. The Germans are out there. You know it. You can feel them, even if you can't see them. You wonder if they're watching, thinking the same thing, readying their own rifles. Maybe they're young. Maybe they're scared. You wonder if, in another life, you'd have shared a drink with one of them. But this isn't another life. You shift your weight and crouch low. The sergeant gives the signal, flat hand to the chest, then 2 fingers pointed forward. That's it. 10 minutes. Someone passes you a strip of chocolate. British rations, bitter and hard as a rock. You break off a chunk with your teeth and chew slowly, just for the energy. You wonder if this is the last meal you'll ever eat. You hope not. But the thought is there, and it doesn't leave. Thompson leans in. Heard the French resistance blew a bridge 10 clicks north last night. Krautzel be on edge. You nod again. Then let's give him a reason to be. He smirks, but it doesn't reach his eyes. The fog thickens. And then, there it is, a low whistle from up the line. The signal. The first wave begins to move. You can't really see them, just dark shapes climbing out of the trench ahead, shadows against fog. They move quickly but carefully, weapons ready, crouched low. You grip your rifle tighter, watching them disappear into the gray. A minute passes. 2. You wait for the sound of gunfire, for shouting, for mortars, but nothing comes. Then the sergeant taps your shoulder. Go. You clamber up the side of the trench, boots slipping a little in the wet clay. You crouch, rifle at the ready, and move forward into the field. The air is heavy. Every breath feels like inhaling mist. Your gear clinks faintly with each step, even though you've tied everything down. You pass through knee-high grass, damp and cold. The dew soaks your trousers instantly. Beside you, the rest of the second wave moves like ghosts. No talking, just quick hand signals. You stay in formation. You keep low. You scan the tree line ahead. No shots. It's wrong somehow. Too easy. You can feel it in your stomach. You've been here before. These lulls, these stretches of quiet. They don't last. They break like glass. You approach the fence. Someone ahead of you uses wire cutters to snap through a section. The sound of metal cutting metal is obscenely loud in the stillness. You crouch, step through, and continue forward. The farmhouse is 50 yards away now. Still no fire. Your squad halts near a slight rise in the field. From here, you can see more of the German line, sandbags, trenches, even a mortar pit, but no movement, no soldiers, no signs of life. It's empty. Or it looks that way. Then, crack. The first shot. A sharp report from the farmhouse window. One of the first wave goes down instantly, sprawled across the field. You don't know who. You don't have time to check. Your training takes over. You hit the ground, roll to your stomach, and open fire. Your rounds punch into the wall of the house, splinters flying. All around you, your unit opens up, a sudden burst of noise and chaos after too much quiet. Thompson drops beside you, breathing hard, yelling something you can't make out over the gunfire. The farmhouse lights up with muzzle flashes. Return fire snaps overhead. The fog doesn't matter now. You can see fine, too fine, every bullet's direction, every tracer round, every flare that lights the sky with a sick red glow. You grip your rifle tighter and keep shooting. There's no more thinking, only acting, only surviving, only what comes next. The fight doesn't last long. You never know how long these skirmishes will go. Sometimes it's hours, sometimes minutes. This one feels like forever, but in the end, it's barely 15 minutes of gunfire, shouting, smoke and mud. Then silence. The silence is different this time. It's not eerie like the pre-dawn quiet. It's heavier, like the earth itself is holding its breath in grief. Your ears ring. A high-pitched whine sits over everything like a radio off frequency. Your helmet feels crooked on your head, and your fingers are numb from squeezing the trigger so long. You're still crouched in the wet grass, half covered in churned-up dirt and gunpowder residue. You blink. Someone yells clear, from up ahead. You don't move yet. You look around. Some of the men are already standing, cautiously walking toward the farmhouse, rifles still at the ready. A couple Germans inside had fought back hard, but they were outnumbered. One tried to run and was dropped in the field. Another surrendered with shaking hands, barely older than you. Thompson is to your left, lying still. Your stomach drops. You crawl over to him. There's blood on his sleeve and a hole in his chest, just above the collarbone. You press your hand to the wound, but it's not bleeding much anymore. That's a bad sign. You shout for the medic. He doesn't open his eyes. The medic gets there fast. Doc Levinson. He cuts open the shirt, works fast, packs the wound, does what he can. But you can tell from the way he shakes his head and doesn't look at you that it won't be enough. You sit there a long time after it's over, maybe minutes, maybe more. Time doesn't mean the same thing out here. You think of the letter in Thompson's breast pocket, the one he was always rewriting but never finished. You think of the way he laughed too loud at bad jokes, and how he always slept with one hand on his helmet like a kid clinging to a stuffed animal. He was just a kid, really. You all are. Eventually, someone pulls you up. "We got to move," the sergeant says, voice low but firm. You nod and follow. The farmhouse is secured. The push succeeded. Intel was right. This position was a German listening post, and the radio they had was still warm. Command will be pleased. The line moves forward. You don't feel like you won anything. You walk past the body of the German who tried to run. He couldn't have been more than 18. His helmet rolled off in the mud. His eyes are still open. You try not to look, but you fail. You always look. It's a kind of penance, maybe, or just disbelief that this is what war really is. Mud, bullets, and young men dying in places they can't pronounce. Later, when you stop to rest behind a hedgerow, you finally light that cigarette you didn't take earlier. Your hands shake. You cup them around the match the way they taught you. The first drag burns. You close your eyes. The sun is up now, low on the horizon, spilling gold over the wreckage. It lights the frost on the grass, makes it sparkle. For a moment, you could almost forget this is a war zone. It's beautiful in that quiet, cruel way nature always is, indifferent to the madness of men. You think of home again. This time it's clearer. You see your mother's face, the swing on the front porch, the way the light filtered through the kitchen window in the late afternoon. You wonder what she's doing right now. You wonder if a telegram has already been delivered to someone else's door. You finish the cigarette and crush it under your boot. The smoke lingers. The lieutenant comes by with a pad. He says, "Write something if you want. We'll get mail out with the next convoy." You take a pencil, but you don't write right away. You stare at the paper a long time. What could you say that wouldn't feel like a lie? "I'm fine. We're winning. It's almost over." None of that feels true. So you write something simple. "I'm still here. That's all that matters today. The war isn't over. Not today, not tomorrow. There will be more dawns like this one, more long watches, more firefights in the fog. You'll march through villages reduced to rubble, through woods that echo with the memory of shellfire, across bridges your own planes had to destroy just to slow the enemy down. You'll watch new replacements arrive with clean uniforms and wide eyes. You'll try not to learn their names, but you always will. You'll carry loss like another pack on your back, not just the men who fall, but the versions of yourself that die a little with each firefight, each night spent in the mud. And yet, you will go on, because you have to, because they need you to, because someone back home is hoping you'll come through the front door, duffel bag in hand, smile on your face whole. And maybe you will. But even if you don't come home whole, even if the war changes you in ways you don't yet understand, you will have lived through it. You will have seen the worst of it and stood your ground. The sun climbs higher. You sling your rifle. The squad forms up. And you march on, one boot after the other, into another day of war. But for this moment, for this breath, you're still here.